Hi, this is Eddie with A Mindful Emergence with a new hat that I got in Istanbul about 25 years ago. Trying to change up the hats a little bit, a little variety, but also on the topic of how to manage greening out. What is greening out? Well, it's a nice way of saying basically you've overdosed on cannabis. Something has happened and it's just too much. And the symptoms can be varied. It could be nauseous, over a feeling of overwhelmed emotionally, psychologically, just heavy. I mean, all kinds of symptoms can result. And I can tell you, it is no fun. We're going to get to some tips on how to manage it, but I'll tell you a quick story. And this is to the point, it doesn't matter necessarily how long you've been using cannabis. I had an experience around the same time as I got this hat, but instead of being in Istanbul, it was in Krakow, Poland, of all places. I was spending a month there doing a training, and one day we were hanging out in the central square. Now, Krakow, by the way, is a great place to visit. And it has, my understanding is, it's the largest city square of any city in Europe. Massive. And I'm hanging out there with some friends, and this one guy, Tom, who was pretty experienced with cannabis, he says, "Hey, can anybody roll a joint?" And of course, Eddie, hell yeah, blindfolded, one hand, driving a stick shift. So he hands me the papers and the weed, and I roll up this joint, and we all smoke it. And not too long afterwards, I was in trouble. I was not feeling well. And around the square are all these cafes and bars and everything. And I headed for one that was, a lot of them are underground. I remember going down these steps, going in a bathroom of a bar, throwing up, and barely being able to get back up the steps and finding myself on a curb. And I ended up sitting on that curb for about a half hour at least. I couldn't move. And I remember I had gum in my little day pack, and I'm trying to get the gum out to get that bad taste out. And it took me, I swear, 10 minutes to get gum out, unwrap it, and get it in my mouth. And I eventually found my way home, but man, it was rough. I've only had one other experience greening out, and that's when I was living in Berlin and I went to a party with my then girlfriend and I smoked. And the situation wasn't as bad, but I remember just it was a party and I found a chair somewhere and I just wrote it out. But this brings us to the point of like choose your cannabis selectively. All right. This was cannabis that I didn't source. I don't know where it came from in both cases. All right. And it's unlikely that you're going to green out because something's been contaminated, which may have been the case in those two situations. It's unlikely that's going to happen if you get it at a dispensary because they got to send the product in to be tested. And obviously, if you grow it yourself, then you're good to go. So that brings us to one of the three reasons why people tend to green out. One is the source. They're not having a reliable source. So be very careful where you get your cannabis, okay, is my suggestion. You're not going to die, but you can get sick as hell. Trust me on that. The second reason a lot of people green out is edibles. Edibles are can be a problem. All right. In one of my other videos where I talked about edibles, she held up a jar of something that somehow came into my possession with each gummy being 100 milligrams of Delta 8. Now, mind you, Delta 8 is less potent than Delta 9, but 100 milligrams? What if somebody doesn't know and they just pop that in and take it? I mean, I normally take 10 milligrams of Delta 9, so that'll give you a sense of proportion, okay? So, you know, in a lot of times people take gummies and they wait and they wait and they wait and they go, well, I need more. And then it turns out this gummy was slow to kick in and suddenly you've just overwhelmed. So gummies can definitely result in greening out. The other scenario, the third one, is you've been out of the game for a while, and you probably know that the cannabis being accessed now is so much stronger than what you were smoking back in the 60s and 70s. And if you go into a dispensary and you get steered towards that THC that's got like 30, 32% THC, and by the way, some of these numbers, I'm not sure about. I was on a website yesterday of a local dispensary, and they had something they said that was 45% THC. I'm sorry, I'm calling bullshit on that one. But in any event, the stuff is stronger and you're just not used to it, right? So that's one problem. So the advice in general, especially if you've been out of the game, is go slow. Okay. All right. So let's go to what to do. So you're in the situation. You're not feeling well and you realize you've really overdone it. The first thing to remember is this isn't going to kill you. You're not going to die. You don't die from cannabis overdose. All right. It can last a while, but keep in mind there's a beginning, a middle, and an end to any experience. You're in the beginning, and this will eventually end. So do your best not to panic. Just know you can get through this. All right. The second thing to keep in mind that you can use is you can use your breath. Our breath is our superpower, and there's so many things that you can do. And I'm going to show you a simple way of breathing you can use in any situation where you're overwhelmed. And this has an effect on your neurophysiology. You just take a normal inhale, not a big inhale, all right? That can activate a sympathetic nervous system response, kind of jack you up into fight or flight. Just do a normal inhale, then do a long, slow exhale. It'll look something like this. Now, you probably couldn't hear my breath, but it was just a soft breath. It wasn't pushing the air out, it was just a longer than normal exhale. Do several of those. And what happens is when you do that, a message is going to your brain saying, all is well. Okay. So you can use that in any situation where you're overwhelmed. And I recommend it if you're greening out and do several of those. And you can bring motion to it. Like when I do it, I'll just bring my hands down like, in fact, any kind of movement, if you can do it, can be helpful. Now, when I was sitting on that curb, I was like a statue, man. I don't know for how long. I just sat there. I could barely move. But if you can move, some gentle walking, some movement can be helpful. Another thing you can do is drink water. In fact, in general, you want to be hydrating a lot when you're consuming cannabis, but drinking some water can really help perhaps restore the right balance in your system. And you might try eating. If you're not nauseous, and you have to decide, use your intuition. Do you need some fruit, something that's sugary, or do you need some fat? Do you need a little piece of cheese or maybe some nuts? Use your own intuition on that. Um, it could sort of help ground you, possibly. Another one that you can do, and this I really, really recommend, is if you're doing a lot of cannabis, and especially if you're going for some bigger experiences, have some CBD oil with you. Now, one of the things I talked about numerous times in my videos is how the growers are not only trying to get these big THC numbers because they know a lot of people coming in look for the big numbers and that's what they want to buy. They're not only jacking up the THC, but they're reducing the CBD that's in it. Why do they do that? Because the less CBD there is and the more THC, the higher you're going to get. And that's what a lot of people are going for. All right. So if you have some CBD oil and you're overwhelmed, take some of that and administer it sublingually. Just put it under your tongue, and that may very well help you. Okay. I know for a fact that CBD oil is used in therapeutic settings for people who are doing high dose cannabis experiences. So I can't guarantee it, but I can tell you it could very well help and just keep some around just in case. Another thing you can do is just get some fresh air, go outside, open a window. That may be just what you need, especially if you're inside and it's kind of hot. Another thing you can do is, and I haven't tried this, but I keep reading it over and over again. If you have some peppercorns, take the peppercorns and smell them. Peppercorns have a terpene in it called beta caryophyllene, which, by the way, shows up in a lot of cannabis. And it happens to be a particular terpene that is really good for inflammation. And it acts on different receptors. Instead of hitting the CB1 receptor that THC does, it hits the CB2 receptor. And it has kind of like a catalyst effect. And it's noted for being able to help bring you down if you are greening out. So you can try it. Can't hurt, right? And some people say lemon is really good because it's got limonene in it. I know for me, limonene has more of an activating effect, but you can try it. All right. Another thing you can do is be willing to ask for help if there's somebody around. I know a lot of us, they don't want to admit. When I had that experience back in Krakow, the next day I saw Tom. He goes, "Where the hell did you go?" And I go, "Tom," and I told him what happened. I said, "What did you put in that stuff?" And he looked at me and he laughs. He goes, "What a lightweight you are." But I would assume if you've got someone around you at the time that you're greening out or someone that you can reach out to, they might be a little bit more compassionate uh, in that moment and offer some help. So I know it can be kind of embarrassing to think, oh man, I got too high. But hey, it's okay. It can happen to anybody. And I was a very, very experienced cannabis user when this happened, and it totally shocked me. So to this day, I don't know what the story was, if Tom was growing his own stuff and it was some kind of super weed, or maybe he put some concentrate on. Maybe he had some hash and he, mixed that in the bag. I don't know. But I'll tell you what, I never want to go through that again. It was really tough. And I didn't have these skills. I didn't know what to do. I didn't have any CBD oil. I didn't know how to do the breathing. I was just at a loss and I just had to suffer for a long time before I was finally able to feel better. So I hope those tips are helpful. If you have any suggestions, please drop them in the comments. I love it when people give us a thumbs up, helps our channel. Just trying to get the message out. I'm just an old hippie who's trying to stimulate a conversation, share information about how to use cannabis in the most intentional way that we possibly can. All right. So thanks for watching. We'll see you next video.